a few points of that we touched on. I want to go back. Go back to the beginning to page 820. Okay. So, just one second. Let me just find something here. Just one second. Where is it? Okay. All right, and in the very first pasuk, it says like this: "Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahas ben Levi, and v'dasad v'aviram b'nei Eliav." Now, the first thing is, the Mefarshim say Korach's mistake. His father's name is Yitzhar. Yitzhar, in page 820. His father's name is Yitzhar. Yitzhar is really quick. Close that door, Mike. Yitzhar means oil. So Korach saw himself as Korach ben Yitzhar. Yitzhar is the son of oil. What happens to oil? Oil floats to the top. The Jewish people are compared to olives and oil. The Jewish people are compared to oil because in every society, Jews float to the top. In Torah, we're meant to float to the top, and in the world at large, Jews are always at the top of every area of whether it's finances, Nobel Prize winners. I think 23 or 25% of Nobel Prize winners have been Jewish. Entertainment industry, crime, even the best crime. What's his name? Madoff is the biggest ripoff in history. We're always at the top. Jews float to the top. I mean, there's a certain. So Korach, just from the very name, he sees himself as somebody who should float to the top. The only thing that the Jews don't get to the top at is the what's it called? The Scripps spelling bee. That's always won by an Indian. There's always an Indian. My contention is that they have an advantage simply because they know how to spell their own names. They always say, it's always Maharanjdi. And there's a Jew's name is Moish. That's not that difficult. Or Yas. It's not that difficult to spell. But when you got an Indian name. So the Jews always go, so Korach sees an indication in his very name. My father's name is Yitzhar. Ben Kehos. Kehos means to gather together. I'm the guy who's supposed to be the one who gathers people together. I'm supposed to be the leader over here. So he's misled by something. We'll see in a moment what else he's misled by. But if you look at the very first Rashi, so Rashi says, it's the second Rashi actually, Ben Yitzhar ben Kehos ben Levi. It's 6 lines from the top. So Rashi says, Ben Yitzhar ben Kehos ben Levi, V'lo hizkir ben Yaakov. Why is his genealogy, when it's traced, it's only traced to Levi, and it stops short of Yaakov? Says the Rashi, he's quoting the Medrash here. Shebikesh rachami mal atzmo. Rashi says that Yaakov Avinu davened, shelo yizocher shma machlukosam, that his name should not be associated with this dispute. Where did he daven? Shenemar, when he says when he's giving the blessings to the tribe of Levi, uvikeholam al techad kevodi. So his name isn't mentioned. Yaakov davened that his name, somehow he has some sort of ruach hakodesh or prophetic inspiration, and he davened, whether he knew exactly what he was davening for, or whether it was something that he sensed it at what level. That I can't tell you. But he davened that his name should not be associated here, and therefore the Torah says, Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kos ben Levi. But I saw a phenomenal explanation. One of the commentators said, well, you know what Yaakov was davening for? What does it mean his name should be associated? Not just his name shouldn't be written there. He was davening that Korach should not use Yaakov Avinu as an example. What did Yaakov do? Yaakov went in a very deceptive way. He went and he stole the position from Esav. So he's worried that, Korach will think to invoke Yaakov's name over here. Well, if Yaakov could do it, so it's a mitzvah to this, I could do it too. So Yaakov is hoping that Korach doesn't invoke his name. Now, if you look at Pasuk Zayin for a second, look at the very next page, where Moshe Rabbeinu says, Rav lochem b'nei Levi. It's on page 822, right column, 4 lines from the bottom in Rashi. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Rav lochem b'nei Levi. You've gotten enough, or you've taken enough, b'nei Levi. And we're going to come back to this in a second, but look what Rashi says. Davar gadol amarti lachem. I've said a big thing to you, says Moshe Rabbeinu. V'lo tipshim hayu. They weren't stupid. Shekach isra behem v'kibla aleim lekarev. He warned them, and they brought the Torah anyway. Elohim chatu al nafshosam. They sinned. They sinned at the cost of their life. Shenemar es machtos hachatoim eilu b'nafshosam. Now, Rashi says v'korach shepikeach haya. Korach was a wise man. Ma ra'a lishtus zeh. What did he see to get involved in this absolute folly? Eino hitaso. His eye deceived him. Ra'a, he saw in Ruach HaKodesh, shalshelas gedula yotza mimenu. He saw that there's going to be, down the line, there's going to be a chain of prominence coming from him. Who is it? Shmuel. Shmuel Hanavi was a Levi. Shmuel's a Levi, and he descends from Korach. Sheshokol keneged Moshe v'Aaron, and Shmuel, in a certain way, is ways parallel to Moshe and Aaron together. Shneimar, the pasuk says Moshe v'Aaron b'chohanav u'Shmuel b'korei Shmuel. The pasuk mentions Shmuel almost parallel to Moshe and Aaron put together. Amar belibo. So Korach said, Bishvilo ani nimlat. I'm going to get out of this in the merit of Shmuel. Shmuel's got to descend from me. So obviously I'm going to survive this. Vesri varba mishmaros omdim lev levanov. And he's going to have 24 watches. Kula misnabim beruach HaKodesh. But he made a mistake. Amar, efshar kol hagdula azos asida lamod bimeni. All of this prominence is going to come from me, Shmuel, and the 24 watches, the 24 mishmaros of Leviah. Vani Edom, and I should be silent? Lekach nishmatatef lovo lo'osa chazaka. And that's why he thought that he was going to, what he called, he was going to get there. But he made a mistake. Look at the very next one. Asher yivchar Hashem hu HaKadosh. Ta'a v'tola ba'atzmo. He made a mistake, and he ascribed it, he assumed it was coming from him. V'lo ra'a yafa. He did not see properly. The vision was confused. He confused it. He didn't read the data correctly. L'fishe b'nav asu tshuva. His sons did tshuva. U'Moshe hayaroeh. Oh, so what happened here? Korach says, Shmuel Hanavi is going to be descended from me, so I'm obviously going to survive this. Well, you had the data, but you misinterpreted the data. Because you're right, Shmuel is going to be descended from you. From who? From your sons who are going to survive this entire conflict. They're going to get married and have children, and they're going to say, well, he descends from you, but you're gone. So even Ruach HaKodesh could be misinterpreted. When you get to Ruach, he got a little too excited about this. Wow, Shmuel Hanavi's coming from me, and he didn't stop to think, what are the other possibilities? Hold all the questions for a few minutes till we get through this. He misinterpreted the data. But what was it that, and this is the point I want to get to, why did he merit to have Shmuel coming from him? See, Korach thought, well, I'm great, he'll be great. So Korach made a mistake. You're not great. You're no good. But Korach's death causes a Kiddush Hashem. It's his death that causes him to merit to have Shmuel Hanavi come from him. See, most people don't want to think in those terms. Most people want to think in terms of, well, I'm good, so he's good because I'm good. Well, you got it right, but only half right. He's good because you were bad. And your bad caused the death, which creates a Kiddush Hashem. It's a Kiddush Hashem. That Kiddush Hashem causes a merit. That means the person, even in his death, could be accumulating some sort of merit. You know where else we find this? You're going to be shocked. You know where else we find it? By the man parallel. Who did we say was the man parallel to Korach? Haman. Haman, the Gemara says, had children who taught Torah in Bnei Brak. He had descendants, not children, descendants who taught Torah in Bnei Brak. How did Haman end up with good kids like that? Because Haman became a Kiddush Hashem. His death was, he would have preferred not to do it that way. But that's how it worked out. So even though the person himself may be no good, but something good came about as a result of the death of this person. Therefore, there's a merit at some point, and that merit ends up in Haman's descendants who converted and ended up teaching Torah in Bnei Brak. That's what the Medrash says. Yeah, question. Again, your first name is? Nerya, you go ahead.
We said
How many schus that anybody's going to find over here? But that sort of schus does exist. Obviously,
that's the story as well, right? Whatever we do, our ancestors get benefit.
But this wasn't you're right. That's one type of schus. This is another type of schus.
And is this around the same thing as like Haman and Korach with the fact that his descendants are the Akiva?
Probably. Yeah.
Was it that Haman's sons were hanged?
His sons were hanged, but he had somebody was still alive. The grandchildren, somebody must have gotten married along the way, and somebody converted. That's what the Gemara says. His descendants taught Torah in Bnei Brak. They asked that question if it maybe came from the daughter. The daughter married a guy who wasn't an Amaleki, and so on and so forth. That's all discussed about Amaleki and converted. It's a good question. In any event, that's what it says. Again, when you're learning Chumash, by the way, your question is a good question, but you have to know that when you're learning Chumash, or you're learning these sort of midrashim, it does not obey the same rules as Gemara. When you're learning Gemara and you have a problem with Rashi, Tosfos, and the Gemara itself, it has to fit like a glove. It has to fit like a glove. There's a rule in Medrash, Ein Meshivin al Hadrush, that in Medrash, they're telling you a concept. Sometimes you'll say even conflicting concepts in Midrashim, like you're pointing out over here with the needle and with Shmuel Navi. It's not a kasha the same way it would be like when you learn the Gemara, and the Gemara in Mako says one thing, and the Gemara in Yavama says something else. Then it's got to be reconciled. It's got to be airtight. Medrash obeys a different set of rules. It's symbols. Sometimes it's symbolism. Sometimes trying to communicate. So you can't ask a kasha on the Medrash. It's a good curiosity question. It's a very good question. What about the needles? That one Medrash says there were no needles. That's one Medrash. There's another Medrash, and that's how they even answer it. That's how the classic commentaries answer, well, that's one medrash, and this is another medrash. The two don't have to, one way or another, they do reconcile, but they don't have to reconcile the way we're normally used to reconciling Gemara. Okay, it sometimes could get like, but that's the rule. It's like knights could jump in chess. Yeah, knights could jump over pieces in chess. Yeah, but the others can't. Yeah, you're right, but I'm right. I had a Rabbi once said that to me. I was arguing with a rabbi. Rabbi was giving me a piece of advice, life-changing advice, and it did change my life. And he was telling me to embark. It was actually when he was telling me to leave Kollel and embark on a career in starting to get involved in teaching. And I wasn't a happy camper. And I had gone to him for advice, and he was advising me. And at a certain point, I was not happy, and I started arguing with him vehemently. And he just listened to me as I vented. He just sat there like this, listening. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me. And I got it all out of my system. And he looked at me and goes, "You're right." And I was like this, and he goes, "But I'm right," which is a line that I've used many times since. That much of that I certainly learned from him. First of all, you say to the guy, "You're right." That'll quiet you down. If there's anything way to quiet down a guy, last night, I was ticked. I was very, very upset last night. You would not have wanted to be near in my Dalit Amos last night because I had to give a lecture somewhere. I called the car service, it was very reliable, and the car was late. So I called the dispatcher. I'm venting now, guys. I called the dispatcher, and I asked him what's going on. He said, "1 second, I'll check with my driver where he is." So the driver told him that he's at the entrance of my neighborhood, Neve Yaakov. And so, which means he should have taken another 3 or 4 minutes to get to my house. And after about 5 or 6 minutes, I called the driver myself. I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm on the bridge on the way to Neve Yaakov." The bridge. So I was not, well, if you would have told me that, and he would have told me that, I would have canceled it and I would have ordered a cab from somebody else. Now I got to wait another 10 minutes till you get to my house. It was very stressful. Okay, I'm done venting. Now, nobody cares. I want to show you a couple other points. Take a look. This is fascinating. Back on page 820, where Korach says to Moshe, fourth line from the top, Vayikalu al Moshe ve'al Aaron, vayomra aleihem, Rav lochem, you've taken too much. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim, everybody's holy. All Jews are holy. Now I want to ask you, gentlemen, when we think about Kedusha, what area of life is that? We said yesterday, morality/immorality. That's where Kedusha is. Where does the Kedusha of a Jew begin? When and where does it begin? The Kedusha of a Jew, more when than where. When, at what point does the Kedusha of a Jew kick in? Even before that. The Bris Milah. At a Bris Milah, symbolically, obviously on that area of life, that's where the Kedusha, we say that in the benching every day. when you eat bread. Al brischa asher chasamta b'vsarenu, the bris which you have stamped in our flesh, which is the area of kedusha, and it's the mitzvah that we carry around. Dovid HaMelech once went into the mikveh and he was upset because he felt that he does not have any mitzvahs with him, and then he realized, he remembered he has bris milah. So that a Jew takes with him, and that's kedusha, obviously. And the Rambam explains that the idea of a bris milah is symbolically and even physically, any limb of the body that undergoes surgery will never be as strong as it was originally. So even the baseball players have Tommy John surgery, right? The guy has Tommy John surgery when he pops something in his arm, or somebody just popped an Achilles tendon, or a player blows out a knee and an ACL, and they do surgery. It's never going to be as good as it was originally. The bris milah, says the Rambam, actually weakens the drive because it's undergone a surgery. That's part of the kedusha of a Jew. The kedusha is in the bris milah. Remarkably, if you take a look at this pasuk, when Korach says, Rav lachem ki kol ha'eda kedoshim uvisocham Hashem, so if you take a look where it says Rav lachem, look at the last letter of the word lachem. What's the last letter? A mem. Mem sofit, but it counts as a mem. Look at the last letter of ki, which is what? Yud. Everybody see this? 4 lines from the bottom. What's the last letter of the next word? Lamed. And the last letter of the next word is a hey. Mem, Yud, Lamed, hey spells what? Milah. Bris milah. Rav lochem ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. We're all holy. We've all had bris milah. What makes you think you're better than the rest of us? And therefore, there it's alluded to. Yes, Mike? From the day she's born, women got natural kedusha. Men need the kedusha. And also, when you say "Arat mekudeshesli," but women have a natural kedusha. They don't. That's why women don't need the mitzvahs like the men do, because we're still, even with the bris milah, we still have issues. So we need the mitzvah. We need the mitzvahs in order to keep us under control. That's why women can function in the physical world without. If a man was left to take care of the kitchen and all the other mitzvahs that the women take care of, we'd be eating a chazer every day, right? So we only trust women with this. Men always know the leniencies. Right? Men know. Oh yeah, my rabbi said. Yeah, I know all about it. Okay, now take a look at pasuk hey. These are just points we need to fill in before we go on. So Moshe says to Korach like this: Vaydaber el Korach, bottom line on 820. Vaydaber el Korach lakodas lebor, boker, in the morning, the Yoda Hashem es asher loves hakodos ve'ikriv elav. Hashem will let us know who's the Holy One and who draw near to Him. Veis asher yivchar bo yakriv elav. Now, if you look at Rashi over here, Moshe says he wants to first plot was to try to delay them, and then Rashi brings down. On page 822. Umedrasha, third line of Rashi, right column. If you find it, please show the person next to you. What was Moshe? The first idea was, Boker, let's wait till tomorrow morning. It's always good to put off till, that was our motto in high school. Our motto in high school was, don't do today what you could put off till tomorrow. And Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to put it off because he knows, listen, they're all riled up, they're all tzahitz, and sometimes in life it's a good strategy when somebody's all upset, let's talk about it tomorrow. When everybody's calm, a little bit more reasonable, we'll see what it'll be. And then Rashi says like this, Umedrasho, that's the plain meaning. But now there's a medrash. Boker, what did Moshe mean? Amar lehem Moshe, Gvulos chalak HaKadosh Baruch Hu olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made borders, He's made boundaries in His world. Yecholim atem la'afoch boker la'erev. Can you change morning into night? Morning goes up to a certain point, the day goes up to a certain point, then it's nighttime. Korach, can you possibly flip around daytime and turn it into nighttime? Kain tochlu levatel azeh. Then you have the same chance avoiding these appointments. These appointments are as set in stone because God gave them the same way that God decreed that there's a morning, a daytime, and there's a nighttime. And you have about as much chance as overturning the appointments which I've made, which come directly from God, as you do of overturning the natural running of the world, turning morning into night. Shenemar vahi erev vahi voker. So the Mefarshim say like this. What does that mean? What does that mean that there's morning and there's night? So we know that the symbol of morning is the sun. Daytime is the sun. The symbol of night is obviously the moon. The sun and the moon have a relationship, the same relationship that you have between a Rebbe and a Talmud, the same relationship they have between a husband and a wife. Remember, we spoke about the idea, one person is the energy and the other is the receiver. The Rebbe is the giver, the energy, and the Talmud is the receiver. The husband is the energy, the wife is the receiver. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to Korach, you have to know that at every station in life, one is the energy, one is the boker, and one is the evening. In this particular case, I'm the boker. You're on the evening. You're the receiver over here. You're the evening. The same way that you can't change the physical reality of energy and receiver, you can't change the appointed positions of energy and receiver. Remember, we spoke about this by Nadav and Avihu, that one of the issues for Nadav and Avihu is that they were meant to be the receiver and they tried to become the energy. And the same way that you have that in every relationship, and by the way, sometimes you're both. Sometimes you're both. You could have a man who's learning in Kollel and he has a Rebbe, and when he's in Kollel, he's the receiver because he has the Rebbe who's the energy. You have Hasidim. The Rebbe by the Hasidim, he's the energy. He's the sun. The Hasidim are the moon vis-a-vis the Rebbe. But then when they go home, that relationship changes because in the home, the husband is the energy, the wife is the receiver. So this is something that a person may have a dual role in all through life at their various stages. Korach, your role right now is to be a receiver. In the same way that you can't change the constellation, you can't change the sun and the moon, can't change their roles, you also can't change your role right now. Okay. Now take a look at Pasuk Zayin. And here you have a very, very strange, what do you call it? A strange, what's the word? Criticism for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, take the fire pans, third line from the top, Usnu bahen eish, put fire in the pans, v'simu aleim ketores, lifnei Hashem, mochar, v'hoya ha'ish asher yivchar Hashem hu hakadosh, rav lochem b'nei Levi. Now, Rav Lachem B'nai Levi could be understood in two ways. On one hand, I could say, hey, listen, if you've gotten a big position already, Rav Lachem, or it could be Rav Lachem, you're really trying to take more, you're biting off more than you can chew. So Rashi says, if you take a look at the left column, where does it bring it down? The Medrash, it's later on, looked at Parshas Ve'eschanan. Take a look at the turn. Keep the finger on the place and go to Parshas Ve'chanan in Parshas Dvorim. Gesundheit. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu starts pleading to go into Eretz Yisrael. And look how HaKadosh Baruch Hu eventually says to Moshe Rabbeinu. On page 958. Page 958. Keep your finger on the place here. Look at 958 in Ve'eschanan. So, Moshe Rabbeinu is pleading to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then if you look at Pasuk 26, 6 lines from the top on page 958. Vayisaber Hashem bi lemanchem v'lo shama elai. Hashem was angry with me because of you. He did not listen to my prayers. Vayomer Hashem elai rav loch. Enough. Al tosef daber elai od badover hazeh. Don't mention this matter anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. You davened, you're not going into Eretz Yisrael. The fate is sealed. Moshe Rabbeinu is pleading. He davened and he says 515 tefillos, and Hashem says, Rav L'cha. So the Medrash says on this, why did Hashem use this terminology? Rav L'cha, that's it. Because Moshe Rabbeinu used that terminology with the B'nai Levi. He said, Rav Lochem B'nai Levi. You spoke to them with Rav? So then I'm speaking to you with Rav. What does that sound like? That sounds like a criticism. That sounds like there's something Moshe Rabbeinu did. I mean, what did he do wrong? He's trying to put down the rebellion over here. And he said to the Bnei Levi, Rav Lachem, that's enough. So what was it that Moshe, why is he being taken to task for that? After all, there's a rebellion brewing, and Moshe Rabbeinu is doing this for the honor of God. So why is he taken to task for that? So one lesson is we learned that even when you're involved in a quarrel, you got to be careful how you talk to people. You can't just say the first thing that it still requires a certain amount of, that you can't just be rough and harsh. You have to choose your words very carefully. I told you when you're criticizing somebody, like your kid, and you say to him, listen, you got a lot of potential, but you're not using any of it. And I said, if you switch the word but to and, which I got from How to Win Friends and Influence People, it changes it. You'll say you got a lot of potential, and if you will put some of that into your schoolwork, you'll do better. And that softens it. By the way, guys, that doesn't mean I've ever done that to my kids. I use but a lot more than and. You have to have the presence of mind to remember to do it. And I probably read How to Win Friends a little too late in life. But at the end of the day, you have to be careful. Now, I heard Rabbi Zev Lev Shlita, he said, you know what, Moshe Rabbeinu, you know why he's criticized for this word Rav Lachem? Because it could be easily understood. It could be easily it could be easily misunderstood by the Bnei Levi. When you got Moshe Rabbeinu saying Rav Lachem, you know what they may walk away thinking? They're thinking, oh, we've reached a high enough level, we don't need to strive to grow anymore. There's a danger in that expression that the person hearing it is hearing you say, oh, you're good enough and you don't have to grow anymore. That's a dangerous, because that's not the approach in Yiddishkeit. No matter who you are, you can be Moshe Rabbeinu, and even Moshe Rabbeinu has to go. They once took a group of secular Israeli soldiers, one of these outreach organizations. They took a group of secular Israeli soldiers, and what they used to do is bring them into yeshivas to try to, shatter the stereotype, because the stereotype of the secular Israelis think yeshivas are monasteries, where everybody walks around, kind of feeling morbid, with melted candles on the walls, like in those things, like you think of in a money, you see those brown holders on the wall with melty candles, and everybody's just walking around going like that. And so what they did was they brought a group of these soldiers, Israeli soldiers, into Panovich Yeshiva. Now Panovich Yeshiva in the basement, about 1,000 guys learning, with bright lights and an unbelievable. It's like when you walk into the basement and you hear people roaring, and these soldiers are just standing there looking like, oh my goodness, what is this? Completely not what they've read in the anti-religious secular press about the stereotypes of yeshivas. And so they walk in, and these soldiers their jaws drop open, and one of these soldiers walks over. He sees a little old man standing in the corner. So he walks over to the little old man. He says, "Can I ask you a question?" He's like, "How long have you been here?" The little old man, he's in his 80s or 90s. This little man smiles at the soldier. He says, "Oh, about 45 years." So the soldier says, 45 years. I mean, are you still making progress? So he says, Baruch Hashem, a little progress every day. Yeah, Baruch Hashem, we get better every day. The little old man was Rav Shach Zatzal, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of Panovich and the Jewish leader, the Lithuanian Torah leader. And he happened to get Rav Shach. But Rav Shach in his 90s was saying, yeah, Baruch Hashem, a little progress every day, because we have to grow. That's our job, is to continue. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he says Rav Lachem, could have been misinterpreted by the Bnei Levi as saying, put on the brakes, guys. You're good enough. You don't have to grow. You can be complacent about your Yiddishkeit. That's poison. We never complacent about our Yiddishkeit. And I want to tell you something. I feel, I come in here, I take my job for granted. I have a privilege of sitting in a room with people like you who are a bunch of idealists who are looking to grow, and I take it for granted. I have to count my blessings. So I should thank you more often. I appreciate the fact that you even let me give me something to do with my free time. But it's free time because they don't pay. But I appreciate it very much. It's not. I've told people I can't teach at other places. I've taught. I'm involved in another yeshiva, and I got regular mainstream yeshiva guys, and I give a few shiurim there, I give a few talks there. But the Ohr Somayach, people come here. You guys are people are really focused on growth, and you have to appreciate that about yourselves, and I have to appreciate that. Anyway, you can throw the money later. But I do appreciate it. Now, take a look at, skip all the way on ahead. We got to where we got to yesterday, where they get swallowed up. Let's go back to the swallowing on page 826. So I saw something very interesting over here. The first one is that, we learned earlier on in Parshas Baaloscha. Remember, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, what did the Torah describe Moshe as at that point? That's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that they weren't even upset. Look at the very end of Baaloscha. Look at the very end of Baaloscha. It's on page 794. So Miriam and Aaron speak about Moshe Rabbeinu, and then 7 lines from the bottom, what does it say after they speak? V'ha'ish Moshe anav ma'od, he's the most humble person. Mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adama, of every person on the face of the earth. So first of all, you see how ridiculous Korach's claim is. Moshe Rabbeinu, you took this position of prestige. And who is Moshe Rabbeinu? What did the Torah tell us about him? He's the most humble person in the world. The last thing he tried running away from it when God appointed him originally in Parsha Shmos. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He was begging and pleading, please, no, not me, send somebody else. I don't want the position. And he protested so much that Hashem even got angry at him. So, send somebody, anybody but me. Not only that, there he was referring to Aaron. In this entire fight, where Korach, all right, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu, I'll let you stay here, but what does Korach really want? He wants to be the Kohen Gadol, right? The entire attack is, what is Aaron's response in this entire fight? Correct. Aaron says, we don't find Aaron responding at all. No response from Aaron, which the Torah is teaching you, that's how you respond to an attack. The best way to respond to a verbal assault is silence. That'll get people more upset than if you want. There are 2 reasons. One is if you're a good person, you don't respond because you want to put an end to the argument. If you're a slightly lower level person, you don't respond because that'll really tick the guy off, right? So you get a little job satisfaction. But at the end of the day, Moshe Rabbeinu is the most humble person. Where? Al Pnei, look at the word, Al Pnei Ha'adama, on the face of the earth. Oh, now we understand why Korach got swallowed. You were trying to equal a man on the face of the earth? Well, we have to show you that you're not at that level. Well, there's only one place to go from the face of the earth, which is where? Down into the earth. And therefore, Korach has to get swallowed. Because you're challenging the man who feels he himself is on the face of the earth. Moshe Rabbeinu felt that he's dirt. Well, I'm earth, I'm nothing. Oh, you're nothing, but so you're less than nothing. So nothing minus goes down, and therefore Korach gets swallowed up. Number 1. Number 2, if you take a look at Pasuk, the next Lamed Beis. So we were talking yesterday about jealousy, and that they had to get swallowed up. Remember what we said yesterday, when you're envious of somebody else, you're jealous of somebody else, you forgot that you're significant. You forgot that you've got any significance at all. And Neria, I'm going to come. You asked me a question yesterday after Shir. I'm come to that in a second. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says, the Mishnah says, "Kana shem tov, kana la'atzmo." If you acquire a good name, you've acquired it for yourself. Kana shem tov, kana la'atzmo. What does that mean? It means if a person has a good reputation. Let's say you're a charitable person. Let's say you're a Talmid Chacham. Let's say you're a Baal Chesed. Any good name that a person acquires for whatever, you're a person who brings guests into your home. When you've acquired your good name, kana shem tov, the Mishnah says, kana la'atzmo. You've acquired it for yourself. That means you get to enjoy your reputation of having a good name. It doesn't belong to anybody else. That belongs to you totally. You've done it. It's your reputation. You've earned it. That's your name. But the Meforshim in Pirkei Avos say, kana shem tov, kana la'atzmo means you have actualized yourself. Kana la'atzmo. You have acquired who you are. That means if you've earned a good name as somebody who studies Torah, or somebody who's generous, or somebody who does chesed, you've actualized who you are. That's what we were put in this world for. We were put in this world to become something. Not to become something the way the secular world sees it. I want to become a big famous lawyer. To become something which means to actualize our potential. So kana shem tov, kana la'atzmo. Korach has a problem understanding that you can become who you are. You don't have to look at somebody else. And as a result of that, you feel you don't exist, which was said yesterday. Therefore, you get swallowed up in the earth. Now, in Pasuk Tes Gimel, sorry, Neria asked me an interesting question yesterday. Moshe Rabbeinu davened that Korach's tefillah should not be accepted. Dasan and Avir, their offerings should not be accepted. So Neria asked yesterday, my Moshe Rabbeinu, why does he need to daven for such a thing? And anyway, how does a davening like that work? I understand if they have a merit, why should my davening help against their merit, right? So I saw a shocker. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh. You know what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says? So remember we were learning in the Gemara, we came across a concept called Hefker Beis Din Hefker. And then in connection to the principle, remember we were talking about Beis Din has the authority, if they have to, they can invoke their authority and say, your property is Hefker, it's ownerless. Sometimes there's a punishment. Somebody's giving them a hard time. Beis Din can make your house Hefker. Don't get them upset. Don't get them upset. Be good, guys. Be good. Beis Din, there's a concept called Hefker, Beis Din, Hefker. The Orach Chaim says, in the spiritual realm, a tzaddik, got to be at a certain level, I assume, has the ability to say, you have a merit. Even a Russia, he has certain merits and he gets paid for those merits. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to God, look, Dasan and Aviram, they're no good. They have certain merits. And it could very well be that those merits will cause that their offering should be accepted. You could be a Rasha, but Hashem pays Rishaim also. Rishaim get paid in this world sometimes, all the time. So they don't have a merit in the world to come. You could be a Rasha, and even though you're a Rasha, you brought the Ketoris offering, maybe the merit of Dasan and Aviram will help that their Ketoris offering should be accepted. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, please don't accept their offering. Says the Orach Chaim, a tzaddik has the ability, just like there's Hefker, Beis Din, Hefker on physical property, a tzaddik could actually, if he sees it necessary, could cause that the Rasha should lose his spiritual merit. How do you like that? Orach Chaim says that. That the tzaddik and Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, Hashem, please don't accept their offering. That means I am confiscating their merit right now. Because they are the ultimate in bad. That's what the Orach Chaim says. He sees that they're rotten to the core. I don't want that any merits that they have should actually stand up and protect them. It's a shocker. I never knew that before. And the tzaddik could take it away just like Beis Din could take away physical property. A tzaddik, again, I don't know which tzaddik it is. Maybe it's me, guys, so don't get me upset. But a tzaddik has the ability to confiscate somebody else's spiritual reward, or that he's entitled to, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing when he said that tefillah. How do you like that? Now, if they ask me any questions about it, because I can't answer. I'm only telling you what the Orach Chaim said. You got to ask him. His kever is over on the Mount of Olives. Right? See, you can ask the Orach Chaim somehow, you can't ask me because I don't know. I'm only telling you what he said. Okay, now, one more point. In Pasuk Lamed Gimel, so the Gemara says, the Pasuk says, it's right in the middle of the page, slightly past the middle of the page. It says, "Vayerdu heim v'chol asher lehem chayim she'ola." They go down into the depths. "V'techas aleim ha'aretz v'yovdu mitoch hakohol." So first of all, the idea of going down alive. The Gemara says that we've learned this. I think we learned this. A person, when doing tshuva, the Gemara in Yuma says, sometimes a person does an avera. Let's say you neglected to do a positive command. You do tshuva, it's accepted right away. A negative command, you do tshuva, and you may have to go through person has to go through a little bit of suffering to clean up. What about certain averas, like a chilul Hashem? A person's death becomes the atonement for him. His death is an atonement. So by dying, which one wants to generally avoid, yet the benefit of him dying is that becomes an atonement for him. But that only applies to somebody who died in this world. Somebody who goes down alive and then dies doesn't have the atonement. His death down there doesn't count. That's why they're swallowed up alive. And by the way, there's a medrash that I think the Ramban brings on that each one of them got swallowed individually. It was like it opened up and they all got gobbled up. It was like right, went around, and each one of them got swallowed up by this mouth, and then it went around. Which probably, I'm just wondering, what was did people need like therapy afterwards when they saw this? The kids were a little bit, or some of the kids were, I'm sure there were a bunch of teenagers, they go, whoa, that was really cool. Did you get that? And the cameras came out, and everybody's watching, to say, and then they all tried it on each other, but it didn't work. And here they got swallowed up there, boink, boink, boink. They got nailed, kind of like, I guess, there's certain things on the table once in a while with a straw, whatever. So I'm sure it had an effect. Why did they get swallowed up alive? So they wouldn't have the merit of their death being a kapara. They die down there. Now, the Gemara says that Rabbi Bar Chana was once traveling the desert with an Arab tour guide. And this Arab tour guide said to him, come, I'll show you where those Korachs, those who were swallowed, I'll show you where they got swallowed up in the desert. And he takes them over, and there's a place where there's fire coming out of the ground. He sees smoke coming out of the ground. So he took a spear, and he put a wet clump of cotton, a big wet clump of cotton, which is generally not flammable, and he put it on the end of his spear, and he put it down in the hole, and he pulled it up, and the cotton was singed. Just to give an idea of how hot it is down there. And then he put his ear to the hole, and he heard Korach and his people yelling. What were they yelling, guys? Moshe Emes v'Toraso Emes. When we did the on Simchas Torah, on Shmini Atzeres, we do the dance, and right before the Hakafas, everybody goes, da 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 dun 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 Moshe Emes. So what does everybody do? Everybody jumps up in the air, and if you have little kids in the shul, they throw the kids up in the air. Right? You see that? Everybody's jumping up in the air. That's where the kids come to shul for, that and the candy. And they get tossed in the air, and everybody's jumping. Moshe Emes. Why are they jumping? Where's that minhag to jump from? So I told you once, I once read, how they train circus? They have these bears at the circus, and they play music, and the bears start dancing. So I once read, how they train these bears? They put them on a hot plate of coals. They have these bears, they put them on a hot floor of coals, and they play music. And the bears are jumping anyway because their feet are hot. But they make an association with the music. Then they come to the circus and they play da 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 da. The bears are jumping up and down because they associate the music with the hot coals. Korach, the tradition of Moshe Emes is because that's what they're yelling down there. They're yelling, Korach and his people, Moshe Emes, but they're not just yelling, they're jumping up and down because it's hot down there. That's where the minhag comes, where we say Moshe Emes, we could assume they're jumping. That's where our minhag comes to start jumping for Moshe Emes with Torah Emes. But what were they saying? Why were they saying Moshe Emes to Torah Emes? Because at that moment, they understood that their entire rebellion was against the Torah, against the authenticity of the Torah. And that's why why didn't they yell, okay, we're sorry, we won't be Kohen Gadol? Because underlying the attack was an attack on the authenticity of Torah. And by the way, if you look at the next pasuk, last point, V'chol Yisrael asher nasu lekolam. They fled at the sound of their voice. They were yelling when they went down. It's not fun. Mm-hmm. But the Kliyakar says it should really be nasu mikolam. They fled because of their yelling. Nasu likolam sounds like they fled to their voices. What does that mean? They fled to their voices or they fled away from it? I mean, if there's an earthquake and people are being swallowed, which direction would you run? We'd be running in the other direction. So why are they running towards their voices? So the Kliyakar says they wanted to hear what they were yelling as their last confession. They ran over to hear what are they yelling because obviously they're confessing what their real sin was. And they ran over and heard them yelling Moshe Emes, the Torah Emes as they went down. So they understood they're confessing their sin. So now we understand what their Aveira really was. That's Nasu Likolam. They ran towards the sound, not away from the sound, because they wanted to hear what that Aveira really was. Okay, we'll stop here.